What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Nick Underhill, neworleans.football's website, Nick_Underhill on Twitter. Nick, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Doing great. How y'all doing?
We're doing very well for sure. Rookie Minicamp was this last weekend, and I thought you had some pretty interesting perspective on neworleans.football, where, if nothing else, so look, Minicamp is what it is, right? We're not going to have any broad, sweeping, interesting takeaways here, but if nothing else, this is the first time that you've seen a different style or just a different, like a functionally different offensive practice in damn near 20 years. What was it like seeing how Kubiak operates in a practice setting versus the Sean Payton system that the Saints have known since 2006?
Yeah, it's like, you kind of got like your home grocery store, like the one where you always go to and you know everything's at and the layout's the same. And then like, you're out one day and you got to stop and get something and you pop into another grocery store and it's like, where the hell is everything?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like that. Like we were going out there for, forever, and the offensive linemen are lined up in the same place and the running backs are here and the tight ends are here and the receivers and the quarterbacks, and you know what drills they're going to do and when they're going to do them. And when they go into the routes on error, like, what the first play is going to be in the second play. And it's just kind of like, you just know, and it kind of like you can kind of set your rhythm to it. And you're out there this week and it's just completely different. Guys are lined up at different places. They're doing different things. And it's just kind of really interesting to just see like practice run completely different way. And I'm not, there's not a right way or a wrong way. It's just different, and kind of seeing the things that are emphasized and how they're emphasized. And, even just hearing a play call, like that's drastically different. Like Sean's calls were really long and these ones are a little bit shorter, and just kind of, just the different things that are being emphasized were just a lot different. And, it's just kind of fascinating to see a different staff go about things in a different way, because like we just have not really seen that in the modern era of the Saints.
Nick, we were talking about this yesterday, and look, I've been a participant in a rookie minicamp when I was going into year 7 in the NFL. Sometimes they'll bring veteran players in. It will kind of be a tryout to see if you still have something left in the tank and maybe get a contract. Like, were there any of those type of players that maybe stood out to you, like non-rookies? It could be somebody that was already with the Saints, but anybody that was a non-rookie that kind of stood out to you in this minicamp?
Yeah, I mean, like Teamer was out there. He's someone that you kind of got to keep an eye on. And then there was man, I can't think of his name, Grant, the special teamer. Like those two guys were really kind of the only two that were out there. And I don't necessarily know that either one of them popped. There was a running back that I kind of liked, number 29, Chris Ike. I thought he looked pretty good, just like as far as movement. As far as on the field, there was a lot of yelling at him. So I don't know, if they feel great about that. But like, you go out here and there's a lot of guys, and, just to put it very bluntly, like that are going to be doing something else other than playing NFL football in a month. Like,
yeah.
So it's a lot of guys that are going to have to maybe they'll be working with us, talking about football. It's just kind of what it is. So like, there's just a few athletes out there that always just kind of, that's kind of, for me, I go out there and I'm just looking and who makes me notice him. He was one of the guys that made me notice him. The Charlotte quarterback, Jalen, I can't think of his last name. He's moved to wide receiver. He was another really good looking athlete that I think will probably get a chance to be in a camp somewhere, just based on height, weight, speed, movement skills, all that stuff. He kind of looked the part. But there weren't a ton of guys that I was like, man, they got to, like, who is he? They got to sign him. I got to check up on him,
right,
throughout the week to see if they did. I mean, it just kind of felt like, Spencer Rattler looked really good. I thought Fuaga looked pretty good. Bub Memes, just in that group amongst the other people, his movement skills, I think were definitely above and beyond everybody else. You can see why he was a draft pick. But there wasn't a lot, a lot of guys that came out of there and made me kind of think that way.
Above and beyond. I agree. My old man.
We'll allow it.
My old man, actually, I was talking to him on Sunday, and Bub Means, that was one guy that he mentioned kind of unbidden. I don't want to spend too much longer on rookie minicamp, except to say, what was it like getting to talk to Klint Kubiak for the first time this week? And it kind of feels like, I mean, is he aware of the sort of savior-esque status that he has taken on? It's kind of like, when Leia says, "Help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope." This is kind of like for Dennis Allen, Klint Kubiak is his Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Did you guys watch the interview?
Actually, no, dude. Actually, no.
Yeah. I mean, there isn't a lot to say. There isn't a lot to say because there wasn't a lot said. I mean, he's kind of a very subdued personality, and I think he was actually protecting against like the hype aspect of it, because every time like a question comes up, he's trying to say as little as possible. So there's not, he's kind of he's guarded, and I don't think that we're ever going to come on here and be like, man, like he really kind of like pull back the layers of the onion there. Like it's not going to be something that happens. The way he conducted practice, though, like he has a presence, and I think you kind of noticed it. I mean, they were doing kind of a drill with the quarterbacks, and they didn't have anyone playing defense because there just wasn't enough people. So he got out there and played defense, and you kind of hear him. It's just kind of just like I don't know how to say this, because like I don't want to put I'm not discrediting Pete Carmichael at all, but I just think the on-field presence, like there is a significant difference, and I just think Pete's kind of more like, they're both subdued in their interviews, but like on the field, I think there's more of a presence one than the other. But look, Pete got it done too, like at times for a lot of years as the offensive coordinator of this team. So that's not saying his approach was the wrong approach or anything like that or ineffective. It's just different. Like it's just two different people. And I think even going through the staff, there was a lot of differences. Like the quarterbacks coach, Andrew Janocko, a guy with a lot of energy. You kind of notice him. Same thing with the wide receivers coach. Like I think that's kind of the running backs coach. Very, very vocal, very loud. I think there's just like a commonality within this group that I think, just on first glance, like it seemed like a lot of guys just had a lot more presence.
Nick is we're talking Nick Underhill, Nick_Underhill, neworleans.football's website. Nick, is a Marshon Lattimore trade inevitable at this point?
I wouldn't say inevitable. I think it's still possible for sure. I mean, the draft, they drafted somebody's replacement. Like, is it Debo's? Is it Alontae Taylor's? Is it Lattimore's? Like, you don't take Kool-Aid and trade up to take Kool-Aid in the second round, for him to watch three other guys play. Like, I don't think that's the thought process. I think his presence makes it eminently more possible to trade Lattimore without submarining your season. I think, pre-Kool-Aid, like if there's a trade offer and it's let's say, a second from a team that you think is going to make the playoffs, like maybe before Kool-Aid, it's like, man, is it worth just kind of throwing in, the towel on the season? Because that's kind of what it would feel like if you traded Lattimore and didn't have a replacement. I think something on the cusp now is more acceptable, because you do have that backup plan, you have the succession plan in place, and it makes it more possible. But like as far as long-term thinking, like whether he gets traded now or not, it just does kind of feel hard to think that he's part of the long-term fabric of this team, just given everything that's kind of happened, how it's played out, the fact that they reworked his contract and he agreed to it to make him tradable. Like it just feels like it's borrowed time, kind of like at some point it's going to fall apart. And I don't know if it's now or later, but inevitable is a strong word, but I think it's still definitely possible. I mean,
do you read into him liking that tweet or whatever, the proposed, or liking the Instagram post, proposed trades, and it's trading him to the Texans?
Yeah, I mean, I screenshotted it and sent it out to people around the league. So I read into it for sure. Hey, what do you think of this? Like, is he getting traded? Like, what do you think? And yeah, it's definitely something. I mean, look, he's smart too. Like, they know that stuff. It's like LeBron showing up at the Cavs game last night. Like, he knows that's going to be talked about and noticed. I mean, like, Nobody does anything and they're like, wow, I'm surprised they reacted to this. I mean, look, if I'm Marshon, I want to go to the Texans too. It's a team that has a chance of winning a Super Bowl. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a little bit of a passive aggressive move, though, for sure.
Hey, Nick, I want to ask you about an offensive line signing, Lucas Patrick, the other day from Chicago. He's somebody that's played center. He's played guard. He's been a swing guy. Where do you see him maybe fitting in with this offensive line for the New Orleans Saints? And right now, as of today, as we sit here on May the 14th, if you had to go left to right, what would your starting offensive line be for the New Orleans Saints?
Left or right? Left tackle, Fuaga, Saldivari, McCoy, Ruiz, and Uliudo. I think I would go on the right side. It's Lucas Patrick. I think he's good depth. I think he's probably going to compete left tackle. I think it's a good floor to set. You kind of the quick scout looking at the highlights, the lowlights, the stats. I don't think that you look at him and say like this is an immediate starter, but he's somebody with a lot of experience and somebody that can play. So I mean, at least they're raising the floor a little bit on that. I'm still concerned, significantly about the O-line, though, and we'll kind of see what happens with Fuaga. I know a lot of people hate the idea of him being on the left side. I like trying him out there. I mean, you got, 12, 15 practices before training camp. Put him out there, see what he can do. It's just always been my belief that if you got a right-handed quarterback, you want your best offensive tackle on the left side. And, if we got to choose between him being on the left side or him being on the right side, and it's kind of, equal footing on either side, I think you want him on the left because, Derek can protect himself if he sees pressure coming from the right. So if you have to have an iffy guy out there, it's better to be on the right side. And look, it's 12, 15 practices. Like if it looks like he can't do it, you cut bait and just flip him back to the other side for training camp. But I don't think there's really any ground loss. I don't think there's any harm done. So I like the thought process, but I will say, like, when I watched him, and I think when we were talking about these guys pre-draft, I'm sure at some point I said, because I know I thought it, like, I thought he was a right tackle only, shorter arms. Like, it kind of felt like he fit that profile, but I don't think enough of my opinion to think that, what I thought was absolutely correct. So, maybe he can do it. And if he can, I think you are better off if you get your best player on that side. And I think we'll see Penning, try to compete on the right side throughout OTAs and minicamp and see if he can do it. But the last thing I would do is make plans around the possibility of Trevor Penning possibly being able to put it together after years of not being able to put it together and stunning my ability to have a solid option on the left side with the quarterback who, doesn't handle pressure the greatest. So now if Derek's flinching every single time he takes a snap because he doesn't trust the guy on his blind side, I think that you're in really bad shape. So if you can find an answer on that left side, I think you have to try to do it.
It speaks so loud, Nick, that when you're going left to right, and I agree with you. I mean, there's a couple of different combinations we could use, but I don't think any of them involve Trevor Penning right now. And the fact that you have needs at tackle and guard, and Trevor Penning can't find a way to slide down and even play guard. Like, even some of the biggest busts in NFL history, like Robert Gallery for the Raiders, like he was a tackle, couldn't do it, and so they moved him to guard, get a couple of years of service out of Robert Gallery. Like, the fact that you can't do that, and we haven't seen the Saints even attempt to do that yet, like, that speaks so loud to where Trevor Penning is right now, in my opinion.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.